Hello and welcome to a very happy Victory Monday. It has been about 48 hours, a little more than that, since the Packers beat the Rams. So we are ready to break down the divisional round win. The Packers are headed to the NFC Championship game this weekend, but they don't have to go anywhere because it is home. So welcome in, Maggie. Hi, happy Monday. How are you?
I was off today, so I had a nice 3-day weekend to kind of relish in the Packers' victory for one extra day. How about you? How was your Monday?
It was good. I was also off today. I got to run some errands, go for a run, and just scroll Twitter for all the news about the Packers and other NFL around the league. I was able to watch both games yesterday, which I know you were too. So we know that we are going to be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game, and of course it's Brady. Of course it's Brady coming up to Lambeau. It couldn't have been scripted any other way, could it?
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked all season long about how this kind of feels like a really memorable season, regardless of what happens. And I think this just feels like the last piece of that historic puzzle is to have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs for the very first time, with Aaron Rodgers hosting a playoff game at Lambeau Field for the very first time. Like the storylines are going to be absolutely incredible this week.
It's just like, to all the national media, here you go on a silver platter. I do think that it does say something, and I've been thinking about this a little bit. And I talked to Andy about it last night too, like how the Packers' first Super Bowl win with Rodgers was not an easy road, right? They were a wild card team. They had to win on the road all the way through. There was no gimmies. And this season, of course, that we have had a much easier time, right? Home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs, but we are likely going to have to go through Brady and Mahomes, or Brady and Josh Allen, who's no slouch, to get to another Lombardi. And so it's another difficult, in a different way, road. And I think it says a lot about this team, and would say a lot about Aaron Rodgers and the kind of caliber of player that we already know that he is, but that, these were not handed to him.
Yeah, and I really like that dynamic where the first Super Bowl was like this young, kind of emerging quarterback who was just starting to get some notoriety as like a super talented pocket passer. Then you have him as the 6th seed. Like they barely squeak into the playoffs. They kind of light things up against the Falcons, and people are like, oh, like this team could be legit. The NFC Championship game obviously was phenomenal in Soldier Field. And then now you have kind of like the exact opposite of that season where now this is one of the best offenses to ever do it. Matt LaFleur has just completely changed kind of the dynamic of this team. You're in a pandemic, and everything is kind of rolling through Aaron Rodgers' house in what will likely be his 3rd MVP season. So it's kind of really interesting that he could bookend a couple Super Bowl appearances with like a really challenging away road and then like a hard-fought home road in the snow, hopefully.
In the snow, yeah. So before we get ahead of ourselves, the Packers need to win this weekend. But let's take a look, just a little look-see back at the Rams game, because I'm sure that plenty of people watching have heard a lot about it, but we should recap it a little bit, kind of talk about what we saw, what we liked, what the Packers need to do, maybe upgrade, I should say, or work on this week. So how are you feeling after the win? What did you think? Like initial sort of gut reactions versus how do you feel now, a couple days removed? To those of you, we're not going to Green Bay. Sadly, no one took up our offer to bring us. I don't know. I thought someone would, but unfortunately they did not want to use their season tickets on Maggie and I. So anyway, how are you feeling?
No, I mean, I thought during the game, we talked about this a little bit before the game started, where there was like this quiet confidence that it felt like the offense was going to be able to put up points and move the football. And I think the first couple drives we saw that. And just honestly, if I could give out like MVP awards for that game, Elton Jenkins, Billy Turner, and Corey Linsley. Like I know the wide receivers had their moments. Aaron Rodgers still looked fantastic. The defense, Rashawn Gary probably would deserve some love in that conversation. But the offensive line allowing the number one defense to, I think Aaron Donald touched Aaron Rodgers once. And that was kind of the extent of that.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
he had a clean jersey. Like at the end, when I watched his post-game presser, like it was just pristine. Like you didn't even need to wash that baby. So I agree. Like hats off, game ball to the offensive line. Robin asked us this question, and I completely agree. I think Elton getting into a little scuffle with Aaron Donald was phenomenal, and not because, it's fun to watch fights, but it shows the kind of heart that our offensive line has. And I think there's a lot to be said about not being afraid when you're going up against, quote, the best defense in the league, or quote, the best defensive player in the league. There's a fear factor, I think, that defense capitalizes on a lot. Offenses come in scared against them, but not the Packers, for good reason, because they were better.
Well, and I think they asked Devontae post game, if the number one defense can't stop you, who can? And I absolutely agree with him when he said we stop ourselves, and that's just about it. You look at kind of the way this offense is rolling up against a defense who gave up 18 points average all season, and they put up 32. Everything was clicking, and the Packers defense in moments made key plays. I think their last 5 drives ended with a punt or a turnover on down. So just everything is coming together at the right time. And I know we talked about turnovers being such a key to success against the Rams, and that didn't really happen for either team. But I think even more so kind of against the Bucs on Sunday, the turnover battle is going to be the key there.
Yeah. And the Packers played a very clean game against the Rams, very few penalties. I actually want to go back. Now that just came into my mind, I don't even remember one. Maybe someone can look that up, but very few penalties, very few punts, no turnovers, just a really, really clean game. And it is a key. We're getting to that time we are at that time in the playoffs where everyone you play against is going to be good. Everyone is a formidable opponent. And so if you can play a clean game and not make mistakes, you're absolutely more likely to win. I completely agree, a drop or two, but those are going to happen. The other team are going to have drops too. There's going to be some throwaways. But I think for the most part, just a great game on both sides of the ball. We can stick with the offense since we're praising the offensive line so much. Let's talk about the run game, because that I think was my highlight. Yeah. In this matchup. Matt LaFleur has spent the entire season basically talking about how much he loves the running back room, how he thinks he has one of the best 3-back rotations in the league. But we haven't seen him use all 3 of them in a game until Saturday, where we saw Aaron Jones and Jamal and A.J. Dillon get his time in there. And of course, unfortunately, A.J., went out with a quad injury. I think it sounds like he's still a little bit of a questionable if he's going to be able to play this weekend. But I loved how much he was using all 3 running backs. They all have such different skill sets, and we got to see that. And when you get the run game going, it opens everything up for Rodgers. I will add, though, that I think that, when you watch all 3, it just highlights to me how special of a running back Aaron Jones is. And like I said, all 3 of them are needed in this offense for varying skill sets that they bring. But just Aaron Jones is just such a dynamic runner. He changes the game when he's in there. And that 60-yard run at the beginning of the second half, I mean, who else can do that? It just, I think, showcased just how special and how predicated this offense is on him being able to get going.
Yeah, you and I talked about this a little bit kind of before the game. I had said, look, if Corey Linsley shuts down Aaron Donald, and I know they're not going head-to-head for the entire game, but if this O-line stuffs this defensive front from the Rams, does Corey Linsley become the priority re-sign? And you and I had talked about, kind of if you were ranking the players left, it likely is Corey Linsley. Aaron Jones is a really, really close 1B to Corey Linsley being 1A. And then the rest of the field you can kind of leave. And I think, this game proved exactly why those 2 players are so huge to this offense, because having a good center is such an underrated element to a football team. And then, like you said, Aaron Jones has the ability to do things that even though Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon are really talented backs, it's just their styles are so different.
And I think also there's a reason why Aaron Jones is able to be as dynamic as he is, because he's not taking the bulk of snaps. They are rotating him in. He's fresh-legged whenever he gets to come in, because Jamal is also going in and pounding through defensive fronts, and you get AJ Dillon in there. And I just loved, I mean, there wasn't a ton of pony package on the field, but there was a handful. And that just makes me so happy because it's been so much talk from Matt LaFleur about how much he loves and wants to deploy this running back room. And we finally got to see it. And I think they did wonders. I do agree. I think that, when you have the best center in the league, not just a good center, the best center in the league, and our Walter Payton Man of the Year. So just like an all-around leader in the locker room, wonderful human being. I know you and I have like a little special place in our hearts because we also love Anna, his wife. And I think that Corey Linsley is a player you don't want to see on another team. But that is for future decisions. Just an appreciation, for that player. Robin wants to know any news on Mason Crosby. Matt LaFleur said that kind of wasn't really giving any answers, but Mason did come back into the game and kick at some point, and it was a shoulder injury, it looked like. So hopefully he gets the week to rest, but luckily it's not like to his kicking leg. So I think I'd be hard pressed to see Mason Crosby on the sideline in an NFC Championship game, but that's just my opinion, not based on fact.
Well, and I mean, we've seen J.K. Scott do kickoffs in the middle of the season. So if it was something where they wanted to lessen his plate, I'm sure they would. But I don't think we'll have any kind of issues moving forward. I think I'd be more concerned about A.J. Dillon potentially playing this week than Mason Crosby.
Yep. Yeah. So another big storyline before the game is Jalen Ramsey going to shut down Davante Adams? Did Jalen Ramsey shut down Davante Adams? Because I'm pretty sure Davante Adams had 9 catches on 10 targets for 58 yards and a touchdown. So.
And it wasn't just Davante Adams. Allen Lazard had a first down against Jalen Ramsey. It's not a good day for him.
No, I think there's nothing that I loved more. I'm coming up with all these new favorite highlights. So Robin, I'm answering your question like threefold now. I think Jalen Ramsey's temper tantrum after Davante Adams absolutely smoked him on that touchdown was maybe also one of my favorite moments of the game, because it wasn't just, look, Davante Adams was phenomenal in this game, as he always is, but that was just a great play call. Make Jalen Ramsey run back and forth, not know where Davante is. He's always going to beat him if that happens. Just on the same page as Rodgers. It was amazing. But like you said, the rest of our receiving core did work against the rest of that backfield. You know what I mean? It wasn't, or secondary, I should say. It wasn't just the Jalen Ramsey show. Allen Lazard, I think, EQ had a catch. I have all of the stats here. I'm pretty sure almost every receiver had a catch. MVS had a really big first down catch. So it was just a good day. Good day for the receivers.
Yeah, it was. Somebody in the chat too mentioned Big Dog having blocks. That was like one of the Packers had 3 penalties on the day, and the only one I remember is the Robert Tonyan hold on one of their kind of red zone drives, but I don't remember the other 2. And I mean, that's what makes a good game, right? Is when you don't really remember a lot of the penalties because it was such a clean game on both sides of the ball.
Yep. Yeah. So Lazard 4 for 96 and a touchdown. Tonyan 4 for 60. Davante Adams, 8 for 58 and a touchdown. MVS 4 for 33. EQ had 1 for 27, and Aaron Jones got involved with 1 for 14. So Packers did what the Packers do, which is spread the ball around to all of their weapons. Aaron Rodgers getting the ball out super speedy quick against this front. But I think also our offensive line was doing so well that he had some time to wait to throw the ball if he needed it at times. So this offense just had all day to do whatever they wanted against, quote, the number 1 defense of the league.
Well, and I think that was so big too. Corey Linsley post-game talked about how Elton Jenkins and Lucas Patrick obviously deserve a ton of credit for going up against the interior guys like Aaron Donald. But he said one of the most underrated players on this entire team is Billy Turner. And when Davante Adams goes down, when David Bakhtiari goes down, it is such a significant blow to your offense. And, he's one of the hearts and souls of the football team. So for Billy Turner to just kind of be all right, left tackle, I guess it is. And for Aaron Rodgers to still have really clean performances, Corey Linsley just tipped the hat. And, Billy Turner, again, was one of those kind of sneaky guys that probably is not getting enough credit for the type of season. He's doing a lot of what Elton Jenkins has been asked to do, moving to multiple spots. He said last week he doesn't really know what position he's going to play until Saturday or Sunday when they tell him to go line up. And I just think that's so impressive.
Yeah, he came in with a free agent class that I think a little bit overshadowed him, obviously, in the Smiths and Adrian Amos. But I don't think it should be overlooked, what that signing has done and just the versatility. And I mean, I wasn't necessarily worried about this offensive line because of the way that they played all season, but you never know what can happen. And I think let's give some credit, right? Donald wasn't 100% of who he is. So that was a factor. I think even when he's not 100%, he's still just as good as like most defensive linemen in the league. So, but yeah, and left tackle too. I think notoriously, obviously, it's the blind side for the quarterback is one of the hardest positions on the line to even slide into. So, agreed. Credit to Billy Turner and keeping Rodgers upright, not getting sacked all game. I mean, that's huge. That's the key is giving Aaron Rodgers time to do what Aaron Rodgers can do. And I think I tweeted this during the game, and you and I have talked about this a ton over the course of the season, which is Aaron Rodgers is playing like Superman without having to actually put in the effort to be Superman because this offense is just so efficient and so effective and is just so geared towards his skill set. But he had a little Superman in him on Saturday. And I think it was fun to see because we haven't seen that aggression from him in quite some time. But that last drive before the half where he was trying to go for that touchdown, like that was like very vintage Rodgers Superman, like just trying to do it all. And yeah, he had, I think, a dropped pick in there. It was dropped, so it doesn't matter. But that level of like, aggression, I'm impressed by the way that LaFleur, the scheme that he's employing and the way that Rodgers is playing. If Rodgers is going to come out as Superman on top of the Superman offense, I find it hard for any defense to stop them. And someone asked, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Someone asked what number Tampa Bay is. And I think you sent me the stats today and it's 3, 4.
They're 8. Their offense is 3rd.
Offense is 3rd. There you go. So
yeah, no, and I mean, we've talked about this before, like on this show where this offense, the scheme is so perfect for Aaron Rodgers, and the fact, like Ben said in the chat, thanks for joining us, Ben. But that Clark Kent can win this Packers team football games, and I think we've seen that. And I think that's why Aaron Rodgers is Superman right now, is because he can be Clark Kent, but he's hosting playoff games, and I think on Sunday in the NFC Championship game, we're going to see the Superman come out because he knows he doesn't have to be that guy, but there's this motivation now. Right, he's so capable. And I think, like to your point about the potential interceptions in the end zone, like it feels like one of those risk-reward things where we wouldn't have seen that from regular season Rodgers, but knowing it's the divisional round of the playoffs and it's win or go home, like we're going to see them take those shots. Yeah, exactly. They weren't going to drive the
yeah. Why not? I just liked that he was going for it all. And I think we saw in the wild card round a little bit of coaches like receding in that aggression, punting on, 4th downs where maybe they needed to go for it and things like that. And someone asked LaFleur this week about that, what's your aggression level going to be? And he gave a very coach speak answer naturally, but you can see they're not shying away from a big play or just choosing for the more aggressive route. And I think that's why. Let's talk about the defense really quick because I want to preview the Bucs a little bit before the show ends. Our pass rush showed up. Yeah. I'm not going to be – no, I am. All those people who said Rashawn Gary was a bust, how do you feel now? Because he had the most pressures in the game at 7. I think he was credited with 1.5, 2 sacks in there. 1.5 with Kenny. Him and Kenny just absolutely dominated. They ruined Goff's day, and it was great to watch. And I don't want to say proud. I guess I am proud to see that someone could have such a I don't want to say ineffective rookie season, but he just wasn't deployed and he wasn't on the field as much. And he got the opportunities this season, and he's showed up in the way that I think you would expect your first round number 12 pick in the draft to show up, and he's showing up at the right time, right? Like this is when you need him in the playoffs. So
yeah. Kenny Clark kind of said that too. Like everybody had an impact in a different way. Like Za'Darius had his sack. Preston Smith had the tipped like deflection, so that drive stalled. Chris Barnes, people are talking about him in the chat. Breaking his thumb and then getting that wrapped up and then coming back into the game. He obviously could have had a couple more tackles. I think he would have had an interception if he had two functioning hands to kind of pull that thing in. But he is a completely different animal when he's that Mike linebacker in the middle of the defense. Christian Kirksey had a couple really nice run stuff. So there's just a lot to like. We talk about the defense ascending at the right time. And, the secondary had its moments. But I think this game really was won kind of in the trenches on both sides of the ball with the Packers offense and then that front seven for the defense. And I thought it was really fun in Kenny Clark's presser. They said, like, even in the league 5 years, this is going to be the third NFC Championship game. Like, what does that mean to you? And he was basically saying, like, look, some people don't ever get to one NFC Championship game, and this is my third one. So they asked what his message was. And, yeah, and he's like, I'm like, we're kicking the door down. Like, that's the mantra this week is like kick the door down and finally get to, where you need to go. So I like that.
I like it too. I like the mindset. I like the way that they're coming in to attack everyone and everything. I think as fans, we talked about this last week. It's very easy to say, oh, this is what I'm worried about the opponent. But it's a different mindset when it's, you're coming into our house and we are the number one seed and you're gonna have to beat us and you have to get through us in order to get to where you want to go, where we all want to go. And they came with that juice. And I think it can't be understated, I'm sure, how much the fans impacted how they felt. Like I could hear the fans through the TV, and I'm sure that it was that extra motivation.
Yeah. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers has talked too about like how special this season has been for a number of reasons, whether it's like the camaraderie and the closeness of the team or just kind of like only relying on each other because you don't have that outside environment. And then, to hear him say like, look, we finally have people here. And when you're running out of the tunnel, it sounds like there's 50,000 voices chanting MVP. And Alan Lazard said 90,000 people and Aaron Jones said 80,000 people. So, that 8,000 people that were there, it clearly made an impact for the players. And I think there was just that extra element of like, this is our house. Jacob was there. He's, super loud and, wanting that again on Sunday. Matt LaFleur already said it like, look, if you were there, we love you. We appreciate everything, but like double that now for Sunday for this team.
I have no doubt in my mind that they will. If you're out there and you have 2 extra tickets, I will fly up to Wisconsin. No, but in all seriousness, I think that this defense has what it takes to stop any opposing offense. Maybe my internal fan while I'm watching the game and I'm emotional as Jared Goff is like dinking and dunking down the field for like one drive. I'm like freaking out. Like, why are they playing soft? But when you look at it holistically, and I really, really mean this, like in hindsight, they gave up 18 points. Like they gave up 18 points. I think there were like 3 scoring drives. Everything else was a punt except for like 1 turnover on downs. Like this defense is playing well. And when your offense is scoring 30 plus points consistently across the board, all your defense needs to do is hold the opponent to less than whatever it is your offense is scoring. And so I wholeheartedly believe that this defense is going to be able to do it. I like what they did against Cam Akers. They held him to under 100 yards. Goff couldn't really get the ball down the field that well. I think he had like 1 pass over 20 yards. Some of those were just honestly phenomenal catches by his receivers. Like he wasn't throwing the ball well. Obviously, it's a very different test because you're getting Tom Brady, who's someone who has seen everything in the playoffs. This man has this is his 14th NFC Championship game, which when I think about it, is just so wild. So it's a different, very, very different offense with, I think, much better weapons. But I just liked the way that they played. And they didn't give up any explosive plays, and they held them to 18 points. Can't ask for much more.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we talked about what the difference has been in a lot of these really close games or NFC Championship games that maybe weren't so close. And I think the defense is kind of that turning point. And, last year we had said a large part of this is the offense. And, this second year in Matt LaFleur's scheme has just proven to be so beneficial for an offense that's clicking. And we're seeing a lot of the motion and the crossers and just these natural picks that this offense kind of opens up for these receivers. And just there's so much to like when you kind of compare like the Cinderella story that was last season. And this just feels, and we talk about like cautious optimism and tempering your expectations, but like for the first time, this is a team that knows like everything is in front of them because they put themselves in this position. And I think that's just what makes it such a unique season is every year it's them going to somebody else's house. And this is the first time. And I believe there's supposed to be like 2 to 6 inches of snow. Like this is going to be the frozen tundra. And I think that that's what makes this feel so different from a lot of the other games that we've seen or a lot of the opportunities that have kind of passed them by.
I think it's dominance is like the word that I keep coming back to is last season was special and you could tell that they were on their way towards something. This season, they're at that something. They're at the place where everything is working and they're dominating other teams. And yes, it was a 1-score game at one point, but it never felt out of hand. It never felt like, oh, the Rams are about to make a huge comeback. You know, like the Packers defense got stops when they needed to, and the offense got back on the field, and they were able to move the ball. Hi, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy you were here. And so I think that it's that level of confidence and dominance in being comfortable in the way that the offense is running, in confidence in understanding this defense can stop anybody, and that like swagger that we see some of our key players come into the game with. I think it seems to be the key. Again, it's another NFC championship game, and we can sort of pivot into the Bucs game now where it's another team that beat us really badly during the regular season. I am of the mindset, and I know that we have talked about this, where everything in the playoffs kind of resets a little bit. Like you go back to 0-0 basically, and you just you go 1-0 or you go home. So I try not to think about what happened in the regular season, also because it was week 6, and that feels like a year ago, 5 years ago. Because this year time doesn't matter. And these are very different teams.
And I think that there's a lot, like you can learn from losses in the regular season, and I don't know if you necessarily agree with this, but I genuinely feel like the Tampa Bay loss was kind of like a pivoting point for this Packers team. And you and I talked about it on this very show after that loss. And we said, like, this is when you start to learn about this Packers team and their resiliency and how they respond to games like that. And we saw when they lost to the Vikings, they lost to the Colts, they were 1-score games, and the Packers were in those games till the very end. Yeah. And that's the kind of response that you need, is that ability to overcome adversity. And I think that I genuinely have a hard time seeing this game kind of mirroring anything that we saw in week 6. I think that the Bucs still have a very good defense. They have a ton of weapons on offense. Tom Brady is still one of the greatest to ever play the game. But I think that this is a Packers team that is confident and has kind of righted its mistakes. And it has learned a lot from that last experience.
Well, I think that also last experience gives you a blueprint for how to beat this team. You know, you get to learn actually from the mistakes of what you did against this same opponent. I think there is a formula to win. The Packers are favored, by Vegas, which they should be because they're home. I don't know if they come in with a similar game plan. This is a great question. Obviously, it worked last time, but it only worked last time because the Packers beat themselves. They have that, I guess, botch snap, forced fumble, whatever you want to call it. And then things sort of went downhill. Aaron Rodgers throws 2 picks, one being a pick 6, which never happens. He's one of the most turnover adverse He is the most turnover adverse quarterback in the league. I think if the Packers play their brand of football and they don't turn the ball over, and we talked about the Rams, an absolutely clean game, they can beat the Bucs. We haven't seen a defense yet that can stop this offense. Even before the game got out of hand, the Packers scored 10 like that against the Bucs. So I think you're completely right. The mindset is completely different. They get to learn from their mistakes and just go out and play the game as they have been all season.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at even the Rams game kind of as an example of that, this was a defense that in 5 of their last 7 games had either a pick 6 or a fumble for a touchdown. So 5 defensive touchdowns that kind of gifted that Rams team points. And that was a key, for this Packers team on Sunday, was protect the football. And we saw them, or on Saturday, was to protect the football. So I think we're going to see more of that now on Sunday. And I think that this is a Packers team that's going to take some shots and take some risks because what's at stake here. But I have a really hard time seeing, we've talked about it even in the NFC Championship game last season, where sometimes games just feel whether it was the Jacksonville game this year, like all of those random things that normally don't happen. And you normally have one or two a season and you get it out of your system. And to me, some of those Bucs things kind of felt like the Packers just getting in their own way. And that's not to discredit the Bucs defense, because it is a really fantastic unit, especially the speed that they have on defense. But I think the Packers more or less right now just need to get out of their own way.
Right. So, okay, so let's say on offense, like what would you like to see them do? Like what are some of the keys to them being able to move the football and score points on this Bucs defense?
I mean, honestly, let's replicate what we did against the Titans. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think the snow kind of impacts that significantly. And AJ Dillon being healthy, somebody just said it in the chat, running downhill. That's one of the keys here. And I think with these speedy linebackers, that outside zone we saw wasn't working as much as it can against a lot of other teams. So hopefully AJ Dillon is healthy. Hopefully we have 4 inches of snow on the ground at kickoff. And, we know how that benefits the offense. And I think we'll see that it benefits. Rachel, it was 60 earlier. I hope it's not going down. But
it doesn't matter. It's still snow. No, I completely agree with you. I just have a very vivid memory, and I don't know why this sticks out in my mind so much, of we saw they're trying to do these like pitches to Aaron Jones, and these jet sweeps and these end arounds. They were not working against Devin White and Levante David. And I remember so distinctly that there were a couple of runs that you just send Jamal Williams up the gut and he was getting yards. Yep. And keep doing it, pound the football up between, this person, Lambeau, I'm sorry if I mispronounce you. You are reading our minds basically right now, which is run between the tackles, like run downhill, attack them downfield, because the sideline to sideline is never going to work against these. And I also think that we've had experience. The Packers have had experience with other speedy inside linebackers. They go up against Eric Kendricks every season, twice a season. We see what he can do. Even the Panthers and Jeremy Chin gave them issues. So learn from those games and attack them downfield. The Packers are doing amazing things with play action. Use those. The run pass options, use those. But the sideline to sideline is not going to work against this team.
Yeah, so let's talk about this, because I think this is interesting. Obviously, Vita Vea was just elevated off of injured reserve. Whether or not he plays Sunday, he's definitely not going to be at full strength. And I mean, yes, he has the ability to kind of stop the run, so the A-gap might not necessarily be the way to go when he's on the field. But I can't remember who said it on Twitter. Somebody said the best kind of way to tackle this defense is to keep them with 12 men. Like, get Vita Vea trying to run off the field because he's gassed.
Well, Rodgers is good at that. Look, Vita Vea getting called up from IR is interesting, because that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to play. That just means that he's going to be back at practice, and they still have to evaluate if he can play. He also has been out for 3 months, so likely if he plays, it's going to be in a limited capacity. I obviously respect that he is a player who can impact the game on the line along with JPP and Sue, but I think that no matter what, it's going to be in a limited capacity, and I think fairly, I don't want to say ineffective, but it's going to matter very little. If we can deal with Aaron Donald, like this team can deal with anyone. I just don't think that he's going to be back at full strength to have any kind of like large impact. I hope that comment doesn't come back to bite me in the butt. I think there is something to be said, though, for this Bucs team getting fairly beat up last night. And having one less day of rest than the Packers. Carlton Davis limped off the field at the end. I don't know if he came back in. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he's going to play no matter what. But they've had to play one extra game, right, in the wild card against Washington, which was also a very physical game. And they have one less day. So there is something to be said for the fact that this team is going to be much less rested and has to travel. I don't know how much stock gets put into that, but I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit like a scale tipper.
Yeah, and somebody in the comments just mentioned too, Antonio Brown obviously was hurt. I think he had an MRI on his knee today, so not sure exactly what's going to happen with that. But there is an element of travel too, where this is a Bucs team that has to come up to Green Bay. It's going to be cold. Obviously, you're used to practicing and playing in 70, 80-degree weather. And I think all of that kind of adds up. Aaron Rodgers talked on the Pat McAfee show, a ton of different outlets about kind of the comfort of sleeping in your own bed and keeping your own routine. And, even Ellen Lazard had made comments about like that travel anxiety that you get where you're just out of your routine. And it's just all those little factors that I think really will contribute to the Packers. And that's why they've preached for so long wanting to get an NFC Championship game at home.
Right. So this is a good question too. Look, Michael Thomas has been hurt all season. He has not been the player that he once was. I'm not going to comment about my personal thoughts about what kind of receiver he is, but he could not be more different from Devontae Adams if they tried. And if Jalen Ramsey and the Rams secondary can't stop this Packers weaponry, because they don't use just wide receivers, they're tight ends and the running backs, I have a hard time believing that this Bucs team can as well. I also think, and I'm just going to say it, I think when you have such a dominant performance like you do against the Saints, and you go into a game feeling really good about yourselves and feeling hot and all high, there is a level of like, there's going to be a come down, because this is the number one. You're dealing with the number one offense in the league, like, for a reason. I find it hard to believe that they're going to be able to have a repeat performance. Aaron Rodgers is not Drew Brees. Aaron Rodgers is more accurate and has a better arm than Drew Brees in, I think, just his shoulder. So they're not going to have the opportunities to be as dominant as we saw against the Saints at all.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really easy to look at the performance the Bucs defense had, the secondary specifically, kind of against Aaron Rodgers in week 6 after the Packers bye week. But they're two different they're different teams now. The offense is functioning a lot differently. The Packers defense looks a lot different than it did kind of in the beginning of the season. And it might have been in the comments or it might not have. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of the biggest thing here is that, yes, they had success against Aaron Rodgers initially, but you said it, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers are entirely different quarterbacks at this stage. And, this is a Bucs team that flourishes on short fields. And why do they have short fields? Because of their defense. So
Right.
If the Packers can generate pressure on this Bucs offense and force them to go the lengths of the field, right, I don't think that they can go score for score with this Packers offense. I really don't.
No, 150%. I agree. I think that's also something that I noticed against the Saints as well. Like, they the Packers are not good on special teams. I'm just saying the coverage of the Bucs special teams unit, not great. So if we can capitalize at all on good field position, like from the Packers perspective, like, that just makes life easier too. I mean, I'm blanking on his name now, but their returner who went out with an injury halfway through the game, they let him almost run one back. So maybe Tavon Austin finally does what we think Tavon Austin can do.
That'd be fun, right?
That'd be fun. That would be fun. Okay. Any other thoughts on this upcoming matchup? Deontay Harris. Thank you so much. That's his name. I am just really excited. I think that this is one of those years where the Packers offense is progressive and it's innovative, and they're doing things that very few, if any, other teams in the league are doing, in the way that they disguise what they're doing on offense and take similar looks and turn them into something else, so that if you watch tape, we're doing something different. I don't think that this team is going to come in. They're not the same team that they were in week 6. They're not the same team that they were a month ago or 6 weeks ago. Matt LaFleur is always innovating and moving them forward. And I find it hard to imagine that at home with another Super Bowl on the line, that Aaron Rodgers is letting this opportunity slip through his fingers.
And I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, and it goes back to that cautious optimism and wanting to guard your heart and all of this stuff as Packers fans when we're used to seeing losses in the NFC Championship game, like in recent history. But I had a hard time, and even with Patrick Mahomes in the game for the Chiefs, obviously hope he is healthy and can play on Sunday against the Bills. But watching all of these teams, it felt like there was some key flaws that the Packers would be able to exploit. And I know that you have to get through the NFC Championship game first, and this is the best of the best. This is Tom Brady. But we talked about this, what does a Super Bowl matchup look like for the Packers? And it genuinely feels like this is a Packers team that can stack successes. And yeah, Sean says that he's guarded, and I agree. But I think this is the first time that I'm kind of allowing myself to see the possibility of this team, because Devontae said, like, who's stopping us? Ourselves. And I think that's kind of what we've seen in this last, they're on a 7-game winning streak.
Yeah, I try to take an objective look. Like, I'm obviously cautious. It's an any given Sunday. Going up against Tom Brady, no one's ever won more games in the postseason, honestly, than no single quarterback has ever won as much as he has in the postseason. He has the most rings of anybody in history. So it's a different level, if you will. But if you look at it objectively, like, this Packers team is the team to beat. Like, they are the team to beat. You're hosting the 5th seed up at Lambeau Field in snowy conditions, that they're ready to go. And they have all of the tools to beat Tampa, and they have all the tools to beat either the Bills or the Chiefs. It's just a matter of, like, how the game really shakes out and who ends up executing.
Yeah. And I think execution is kind of the key for any of these teams. And, we talk, like, the playoffs, we say it's the best of the best. And you talk about how you're 0-0 kind of to start this run, but we've seen some really convincing performances, and then we've also seen some really close games that were kind of hard fought. And, most of the game, I think yesterday, honestly, between the Bucs and the Saints could have gone either way. And obviously the Bucs defense kind of came up more clutch in those key moments than the Bucs offense did. So yeah, it's just kind of how your team performs in any given moment. And I'm really excited to see a warm weather team come up to Lambeau Field, because we just know that this is something that especially Aaron Rodgers has wanted for so long.
It is. And, like, not that deserve is the right word to use here, because everything the NFL has earned, but is there a quarterback that deserves a second ring more than that man? I mean, the greatness that he has given this league for the last 13 years deserves it.
Stat from Mark.
That's very interesting. It is very interesting. Okay, so before we wrap up, is there anything that, like, our defense specifically you think needs to do to stop this offense? Because they do have a lot more weapons than the Rams do.
I mean, I think that we need to see good Kevin King, for starters. I mean, that Jair is going to lock up whoever is on his half of the field. I have all the faith in the world in Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage. But yeah, in the comments, the dink and dunk. Tom Brady has one of the quickest releases in the game. And if Chris Barnes especially is not at full strength with his ability to pick off the ball or get physical kind of in the middle of the field, I think that's what you need to guard against, is that ability to dink and dunk, take a large chunk of time off the clock, and just move the ball. But again, the Bucs offense isn't necessarily built to do that unless they have a short field. So I really think stay disciplined is also a really good one. It's just this team knows what it needs to do, and they have to just stick to their game plan and not get rattled if they, fall a little bit early and have to play catch up.
I think that they need to stay aggressive. They need to stay, I hate to say it, but press man. Play a lot of press man. Cover those receivers. Force Brady to make a bad decision. Get pressure on Brady. He has been phenomenal when pressured this season. He's one of the best in the league at the moment against when he's being blitzed, which I just don't understand how that's possible as a pocket passer, but he is. Get pressure on him, play press man, don't let him get the ball to his receivers. I am going to make a bold prediction, and I feel this in my heart of hearts, and I've been saying it for a while. Look, we're in the playoffs now. Jair Alexander locks up an entire half of the field. For the most part, all season, quarterbacks have just kind of not thrown that way. Or if they do, it doesn't work, and they just say, okay, I got to go somewhere else. Eventually, someone is going to have to throw that way. That's going to be their only option. And I am waiting for the day, it might be Sunday, where Jair Alexander finally gets that pick that he so desperately deserves, because someone, Tom Brady, is going to try to force the ball to the receiver that Jair is covering. It's going to happen. Either that, or it's going to be Darnell Savage, because he's just been our ball hawk so far the second half of the season. But pick off Brady. That's all I'm asking for from this defense.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, kind of the key to success here is if this Packers offense doesn't turn the ball over, the Packers will win the game. So I think, furthering that, if the defense can force a turn, it's not even that bold, though. I mean, I think it's just
But like everyone has been like just leaving Jair. It's the whole joke, the whole season, Jair Island, because no one throws that. Well, eventually someone's gonna have to. Eventually, he's gonna be covering Mike Evans, and Brady is gonna say, "I can fit that ball in there," and maybe he can, maybe he can't. Jair has been so incredible in coverage, so we'll see what happens. But that's my prediction. Okay, I'm excited. I'm amped. I am actually going to be, I saw someone ask in the comments earlier, Bakey is probably going to be at the game. So I'm filling in for the watch party. So I'll be with Nagler on Cheesehead watching the game, so you can tune in and see my live playoff reactions. And if they're anything like the Rams game, it's going to be a lot of screaming. But it's going to be really fun. So make sure to tune in if you want to enjoy that. That was decided today. Unless someone wants to bring Maggie and I to the game.
Nobody does.
Nobody does.
We've confirmed that.
Nobody does. Next season.
Next season, I'm bringing you.
Yeah. Next season, we go. I get on the plane.
Perri had a 12% beer tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So
no,
we're amped.
We're amped, but we're also only about a third of the way through this beer because we're talking so much. So it's not the alcohol. I'm just excited. I love this team. I love this year. It's just been so fun, and I feel really blessed that we even got a full season of football at all. And then here we are, and the Packers could be going to the Super Bowl, and they're in the NFC Championship game again. Like, I just think about all of the fan bases who their teams never even make the playoffs. Like, we are just the most blessed fan base. And we're getting an Aaron Rodgers at age 37 who's playing like out of his freaking mind. And I'm appreciating it. I'm trying not to like let this season be taken for granted in my mind. That's all.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, we've talked about that and just like how special this season has been, and the players feel it. Like, there's something in the air about this season, and the fact that we didn't know that we were going to be able to have it, and now we're seeing an NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. The combined age of quarterbacks in this game is 80 years old. Like, there's so much about this. It's so special.
So Matt LaFleur is younger than Tom Brady. It's crazy.
Yeah, like I absolutely agree with you. Like, it just feels like, yeah, Rachel in the comments, count your blessings. Like, this, not to soapbox, but this was a season that we weren't sure we were going to have. And now, not only to get through a full regular season, but to have the playoffs and a Super Bowl a couple weeks away with the playoffs, going through Lambeau Field in the snow. Like, it's everything that this Packers team has wanted. And it's so special. And the way I look at it is like the Packers are guaranteed 60 more minutes of football. It might be 120, but it's for sure 60. So we get to watch our team for 60 more minutes. And whether it continues after that, like, I'm going to enjoy the 60 minutes for everything that they're worth, because the Packers have kept all of us so sane and like together in all of this. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be an instant classic at Lambeau on Sunday.
It is. And I think I talked about this with Andy and Alex on Pack-A-Day too. It's like, in 20 years, you're going to be able to look back and say, of course I remember that Rodgers versus Brady playoff game. Like there's greatness that you don't realize is greatness until you look back. And then there's greatness that you're aware of in the moment. And this is one of those moments, and it's going to get beaten to death over the course of this week. But also, there's a reason for that. There's two of the greatest to ever throw pigskin around the yard are about to play in an NFC Championship game together when they have never gone up against each other in the playoffs because Brady was in the AFC. I mean, even last night, to watch Breeze versus Brady in the playoffs, like, I think there's a level of special that it's easy to, look at, oh, but Breeze isn't who he used to be and la, la, la. But we've gotten some very special games, and we're about to get yet another one at the most historic place to play football in Lambeau Field. It's just exciting. It's very exciting. And to all of you who get to watch it live, I'm so jealous. I'm jealous. Bring hand warmers and take a lot of videos.
Keep your hands warm, definitely. But mostly the toes. Honestly, yeah, it's the toes.
Wash your hands, wash your butt, keep your hands and feet warm.
There you go. I don't even know what else to say. Send it.
Okay. Any final thoughts, musings, questions before we wrap up?
I don't know. Is it Sunday yet? Like, I'm not going to be able to get through a week of work with any type of focus in my life.
So distracting, but it's okay. It will make it here, just like Saturday made it, and we will be ready to cheer on this team through our televisions. I think it was Marquez Valdez-Scantling who tweeted it out last week, and it was like, if you're at home, cheer loud enough so we can hear you through your TVs. And I just love that, because that's what I was doing for sure.
I so did, yeah.
With Mo?
With Mo, yeah. She was not happy about it, but we did it. We cheered together.
Oh, that's great. Yes, Sean, we will have a show next week, I think, no matter what happens, regardless, to just recap and talk about whatever is potentially next. We appreciate you all for joining in. We had some fun and new faces. Faces isn't the right word. Names in the chat today. So we appreciate you, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. Tons of great questions tonight. Love that. And go Pack Go, man. It's the NFC Championship game. Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.